Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah,
Alaikum salam wa
we, uh,
rahmatullah.
we had to just play that Buffalo Soldier on the Blog Talk side. That's my homage for Bilalian History Month. Those those,
Yeah,
those persuasions, they was the schnizzit back in the day, right?
it's
It's
beautiful.
like
It's beautiful.
we get back on what's going on with my oh, I got you on speaker. uh Back in my days in the hood. I mean, I'm still in the hood, but I'm not a hood in the
Yeah,
hood.
only laugh.
Man, used to have the street corner symphony. I'm about to go look them up, really, really tight right now. Because I
Yeah,
mean, when you talk about the endorphins and the dopamine and the energy that flows from, I mean, that's soul. That's real soul. That, I mean,
right,
come on, you know. So let me
right.
get out the way. I know, I can wax nostalgic on that, but us in music, what I'm
I'm
saying.
always
This
here for it.
you know about that. You know about that. You know about that. You was
I'm
raised in that.
always here for
I
it. I
used
love it.
I used to get a kick out of seeing my mama dance whenever she even
Yeah.
when she was just at the part where the only part that was really working was the shoulders. But that when them shoulders was moving, she meant every bit of it. You know what I'm saying? She meant every bit of it. So thank
Yes.
Allah for it. May Allah grant her
I
forgiveness
mean,
in paradise, inshallah. I gotta go,
I
youngster.
mean.
How you doing? Let me
Okay.
ask you how you doing. I'm doing. I'm
I
running.
am overwhelmingly grateful today. I'm very good. I'm very good. I'm
You all in.
grateful
You
just on
all in.
this journey.
You
I'm
you
all
put
in. I'm
you
all
pushing all your
in.
chips. You pushing all your chips to the middle of the table. It's like,
Yes,
yeah, hey,
absolutely.
that's it.
Absolutely.
Allahu
Yeah, it's good
Akbar.
stuff.
All
Allahu
right,
Akbar.
gotta go.
All right.
It's on you.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. عليكم السلام. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum to everyone joining us on Blog Talk as well as those with us live via YouTube or Facebook Live. I am Haja Camila Shuaib and happy Monday, right? This is our day to come together and be reminded and kick off this new week and all of that and so many things have come up for me today as to what we were going to talk about, and I loved video the recording that was shared earlier, because it's just always this constant confirmation of things that I'm inspired to do, that there is a community of people who do it intentionally. It's like, I'll get inspired, be like, it'd be good to write down this idea to do that, or to go through these rituals of really visualizing the things that I want. And then it's like you discover there's a whole culture of people who do this as a means of what we call manifestation, right? So today, I have the honor every Monday morning with the collective of women that I'm working with, doing my group coaching collective. Um, I was inspired by a part of our conversation today, and I'm happy to say inspired from my mom, right? And she was using a gardening analogy, because I live by the idea of that Allah created us growing like plants. I live by it. I love it because, and see, I got a couple of plants here, and I even have a few that my client brought me some stems, right? And I have to wait for the roots to show up so that I can plant it in a pot. So I haven't physically purchased any plants. They have been gifts over time. And so that's why I say I have attracted plants. Like, this is your way to study plants in order to understand growth, right? And I was toying with the idea of looking at, there's trees right outside from my window. And when the trees are bare during the winter time, that tree is bare because of the season, but the tree does not stop being a tree. It knows that it's written in the code of this tree that it knows that the fruit is coming, right? There's a season of where it's bare, there's no leaves or anything else, but it does not stop being, right? It depends on the resource of the soil and the weather. The weather pattern from the source, from Allah, to maintain its living, right? And I was like, oh, there's a good lesson in that, right? And then I further went on when my mother was talking about gardening and preparing the garden and how it's taken care of so that it can feed those that come and experience this garden. Um, then I thought about the word that came to my mind was ta'alim, right? And I love that word. It's just, you start to discover different terms and language in a very different way that's a part of our culture as Muslims, right? And it's specifically as Bilalians, right? Because we have ta'aleem, right? There's not very many communities I hear use that term, but we have been a community that has ta'aleems, right? And that when I understood that ta'aleem is a term that as you are teaching, you're learning, it's like when you do the thing, you're receiving the thing, right? That in you being charitable, you're receiving charity. In you teaching, you're also learning, right? And so in this ideal of wealth, right? And how we exchange information or currency that's not limited to dollars and cents, but our energetic presence within a community or the exchange of others. How are we delivering what it is that we have, right? So let me connect this back to the tree. So this tree is still benefiting the soil and the life that's inside of the soil, even though the fruit is not there yet, right? But the tree is not dead, it's just without vegetation, but it is still being what Allah created it to be. Allah created this tree to, let's just say, an apple tree. Allah created the apple tree to be an apple tree, right? And we have certain vegetables that are within season, right? And so I'm working through this like in real time. You're seeing this ticking happening in real time because there are some fruits that are in season that are also trees. That apple tree does not stop being an apple tree because oranges are in season, right? It doesn't see the orange tree that's in season currently and say, I wish I was an orange tree. No, it waits its turn. It still feeds the soil that it is in to prepare for its season, right? So there are many of us in different seasons of our lives, in our growth, in our understanding. And in the midst of seeing this happen, that there is a moment where you look upon the fruitful tree that is growing and expanding, and it becomes an example for when it's your turn. And you are growing not to prove a point, it's to take your place and fulfill your station and your assignment for that season, right? And so at that time, you're preparing yourself. You're gathering up the nutrients. You're doing what needs to be done. And nature is doing what it needs to do to the tree so that the next time it expands and grows, it's bigger, it's larger, right? So, what is that thing that we are nurturing within ourselves and utilizing the community in doing so? What is it that we are receiving in order to prepare to feed the community that has fed us, right? Because even in this tree or this plant or whatever that is growing or blossoms something new, it still drops, like it doesn't always get consumed via someone eating it. It may fall to the ground and further nurture the soil that it is in. They won't capture all of the fruit from that tree. Some will fall, and it doesn't mean that it has gone bad. It's now going back into the soil. It is feeding and being fed at the same time. So us as human beings, like, are we giving in the same way that we are receiving? Are we planting seeds so that we can eat from those seeds that are being planted, meaning nurturing and giving to the communities that we are a part of? Is that community nurturing that soil that is allowing us to grow and keeping us alive during a season when our branches are bare? Because all of us have those moments where there's some parts of our life that is not being fruitful, but I'm still maintaining the authenticity of who I am. But the community is keeping me alive until it is time for me to bear new fruit once again, right? And even in me doing that, what I did produce is still feeding me. So, do we show up in a space just for the fact of just saying that we were at Juma, or are we making this level of exchange by, by giving in zakat and sadaqah, by exchanging money with the other vendors that are there, by giving a good word to another Muslim that is there in the space, by making sure that the line is in order when we line up to do our congregational prayer? Or are we just there like for the ritual of saying that I came into the room, okay, I got to rush out? No, are you feeding the environment that's feeding you so that it can continue to create a culture? This is where the culture begins, right? That when you enter the room, that you are quick to give the salams, that you want to be the one that's first to give the salams, that you want to be that one that welcomes a new person, a new body into the environment, because that lets them know, hey, this is what we do. This is the culture. So, and when we're done, it's like, okay, well, I know before I even leave the door, I need to have a couple of dollars on me so that I can purchase something from one of the businesses that's there. Buy a pie, buy a paper, buy a scarf, whatever that is. I am sowing into the community, even in my season where my tree may be bare. But I know that by nurturing into the community, I am nurturing myself. I am feeding this soil that is going to feed me. And I'm saying this with richness because, as we know, like Ramadan is right around the corner. And we know that during Ramadan, we get it is, the tree is full. Let me say that, right? The branches are not bare. The tree of the community is full. Like, people are making a way out of no way. They're taking time off of work, leaving work early. They're changing their work schedule to ensure that they're going to bed at a certain hour so that they're up early enough to get those extra prayers. And there's a shift that is being made, right? Because the tree is full. The blessings are there and we're eating from that. But that same energy is not limited to the month of Ramadan. It's not limited to that time. Have we continued to sow into it to where the tree, this Ramadan community tree, expands as a result? Because when a tree grows and it releases its first set of fruits, right? Its first set of fruits, it's not as big and full as a tree that has been in existence for, let's say, 3 years. It doesn't have the say. The 3-year-old tree has a greater amount of volume, more volume than the 1-year-old tree, right? So every Ramadan, we should see this expansion. The community should expand. And I don't mean not just physically. like mean more people should be a part of the masjid. No, the intellect of the community should expand. The wealth of the community should expand. The knowledge of the community should expand. The families should expand, right? The community interaction should expand as a result, because now we are in the practice of, when it's fruitful, we are harvesting the energy and the culture of us coming together and exchanging and feeding each other so that we are fed, studying with each other so that we can continue to know more and learn more, enriching our rituals so that we can expand our capacity to do that much more than what we did the year before, right? So these areas of our life, it is about getting started. Let's not overthink. Like, I've always wanted to expand. Like, I don't want to just Ramadan be just the only time that I fast. I think I'm going to expand my fasting to Monday and Thursday, but I'm not there yet. So for right now, maybe I'll just do once a month. Every first Monday of the month, I'm going to fast. It's about starting, right? Because as you start it, you stretch your capacity to bear more fruit, to grow more, to extend what you have available to the community that you're a part of. And as you do those things individually, just you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a performative act. Just from you doing that simple act for your own self, it does attract the community, because you're showing up as a reflection of the source of the community that has continued to feed you. I really want us to like really feel that on a very deep level, right? Because this life that we have been gifted, this life of being Muslim, this 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 practice of what do we need to do to grow. Like I was thinking, like, there is like growth is like constant, right? Like, if we're just to observe, like, things that do not grow are not alive. Things that do not grow are not alive. But things that grow are alive. We are alive. And if we are not growing, not just in physical growth, meaning, oh, I was a baby and now I can walk. No, no, no. All the parts of us should grow. Our intellect should grow. Our spiritual understanding should grow. Our community should grow. The friendships and relationships that we have should grow and expand, because it's in the expansion that the world experiences more of that fruit. As you grow, those things around you are growing, right? As you support someone else's growth, you are growing. Ta'alim, this is the exchange, right? And I believe it's a fifth verb form, right? So it's like, oh, like it's so intentional, right? These five pillars that we live, like when you do it, it's happening, right? When you're giving, you're receiving. When you're fasting, when you are making the sacrifice is happening, right? Like this is the ongoing, this is the ecosystem, right? That it continues to give to our lives, to enrich our lives, and as a result it enriches others' lives. I had There was this beautiful post, and I'm about to paraphrase it, because it says the great a great human being plants a tree of which he will never experience its shade, right? A great human being plants a seed of which he'll never experience its shade, right? And I'm paraphrasing it. It was a bit more poetic when I heard it, but I thought it just really, it sat me down for a while to really reflect on that, because that is this cathedral process, right? And it becomes this thing where I know someone is going to need shade. This is a hot environment. I'm going to plant a tree. I may not ever experience the ability to sit underneath this tree, but I am placing my intention to establish something that will make someone else's life easier. And in me doing that, whether I'm physically here or not, I am receiving the benefit of that shaded tree because I was inspired to establish something that will create ease for someone else's life, right? I'm establishing the educational institution. I'm establishing the trust fund. I'm establishing it, writing the book. I'm establishing recording the classes. I'm establishing this ritual of, well, this is the culture of what we do as a community, that I may not receive it, but as a result of doing it, I gain all the benefits still from just the intent of doing it. So when the man was playing the song Buffalo Soldiers, like my tears welled up, right? And anyone who knows me knows I'm not afraid to cry, but sometimes my tears make other people uncomfortable because usually people associate tears with sadness, right? I'm not afraid to cry. I'm not, because it waters. It literally waters me to say, okay, we have to expand your capacity. So these tears are going to water you because you're now recognizing that you're benefiting from a seed that was planted before you were even a concept in anyone else's mind, right? So when I hear things like that, it's like you can hear the souls of the individuals singing the song, because we were not given um, the access to instrumentation, but it didn't stop the soul from not wanting to create the music, right? They heard the tones, they heard the melody. Allah inspired the words. They held on to the story and they captured the story in a way that it plants a seed so that we would understand the history of what it is that we have given to be able to share this story that would have otherwise been lost, right? So when we think about these moments and you really peel back the layers of what it meant for those who were so very talented that didn't get the Motown record deal, right? That never won a Grammy, right? But were talented beyond anyone's scope, but they weren't put on the put see my air quotes, the main stage, right? But it does not diminish the power and the strength of what it is that they brought, the seed that they planted, that others are benefiting from that tree, even though they never saw the benefits of that tree, but they planted it anyway. I can't help but to, I mean, hey, it's Black History Month. Let's do it. It's Bilalian History Month, right? When I think of Teacher Cora, may Allah be pleased with her, she wrote songs that to this day are etched on the hearts of all of her students. And they could just pull them out at any moment, right? The experiences that she created, the songs that she shared in order to teach our children that they still remember, right? She planted a seed for a tree that will shade them that she didn't experience in this life. But I'm very confident and comfortable in saying that she's experiencing the shade of that tree that she planted, right? Because these memories are things that was during the early years of these young people. It was planted in the subconscious mind in a way that they can pull these songs and stories out and memories out the creativity that they have experienced as a result of experiencing her. She planted many seeds in the kindergarten, right? So, what are you planting? What are you planting? Are you planting it for yourself? Or are you planting it so that it will make it easy for those that come after us? Know that Allah is the best accountant. Know this, that Allah is the best accountant. That whatever it is that you are planting now, you will get the benefits of it in a time that you may not see it grow, but know that it is growing. When your intentions are good, when you are being wanting to be great in establishing a firm reality, in knowing that, you know what, I have an ability. I got this seed that I'm supposed to engage the earth and establish in this lifetime so that the lives of those that come after me, they can experience the ease. They don't even have to know my name. Allah knows my name. And with that, I will call the Imam back into the room.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, my little blossom on my tree, my little fruit on my tree.
Alhamdulillah.
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 We we planted well a few years ago.
Ameen.
And
Ameen.
tended the
Alhamdulillah.
garden, and alhamdulillah.
Come
Thank you
on.
ever so
Alhamdulillah.
much.
Thank you. It's
All
good
right,
stuff.
I'm gonna push on.
All right.
Love you. Moving
Love you
on.
more.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. When I go back, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Normally I go back in preparation for each broadcast. I go back and do a review, at least of the last 15 or 20 minutes of the previous broadcast. And I realized the previous broadcast, when I looked at it, that I actually wasn't showing you the slides that I was speaking from. So it was all talking head, and I didn't have the slides up. But that's okay. I mean, the information was there, but my preference was to share the screen. So I want to make sure that I do that this time, so that we can make sure we get what we're trying to give. All right, alhamdulillah. Yeah, I want to let you know right away. Empowerment webinar that's going on with myself and Imam Dr. Abdul J. Nuruddin down there in Greensboro, North Carolina. He and I will be sharing this time together, Holistic Health and Personal Power, a weekend workshop. Myself focusing on things like Quran and metaphysics, the reality of you, reading signs for natural guidance, and he in the area of understanding nutritional deficits, the importance of enzymes, treating the gut, psychosomatic activity, etc., etc. So that is what is in store for us and for you. We hope you'll join us. Go to empowermentwebinar.eventbrite.com so as to register and be there with us. What we're continuing on is the power of a plan. The power of a plan. What we listened to was Brian Tracy, The Power of a Written Plan. Brian Tracy, a very old line, OG. I can remember, I don't know, it had to be 50 years ago. And I was blessed to meet him. And on one of my travels, we ran, quote unquote, we ran into each other in the airport. And I recognized him, had a chance to actually take a picture with him. I still don't have him anymore. But he's been around for a long time. I think his piece was The Psychology of Success, was probably the first set. When you used to buy those 16-pack cassette tapes, that was back in that day. But the power of the written plan is he actually goes through 12 points to point out the power of a written plan. And we bring those things that simply reinforce what we what we know. It's not. I mean, we gain, we benefit from them, etc. But we only bring that in part to show you that there are others who are also saying the same thing that Al Islam is saying. But my biggest point and my biggest emphasis and my greatest desire is that we recognize and trust that the best of what's out there in the world that is popular and that gets paid, etc., uh, is part and parcel of our way of life. It is Al Islam. I mean, it is Al Islam. And so that's what we seek to do on wealth creation and preservation. What we seek to do is say, okay, well, let me show you how these types of things are already present for us in Al Islam, in the Quran, life model of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, what Imam Muhammad has taught us, and so we try to set it up so that we can embrace it, but embrace it on terms that are closer to your soul, your heart, your mind, because you are devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You believe in the Quran and you believe in the Prophet, peace be upon him. So ground your actions and your sentiments and your perceptions in what they and the way they have given it to us. So that's why we go the way we go. So we're still pointing out the fact is what you need is a plan you can believe in. If you are with us, most of you unfortunately don't join us at the very first 15 minutes or so. But that first 15 minutes, it gives kind of a cornerstone presentation from another source that can help you deepen your own understanding in what we are speaking to beforehand. But be that as may, I encourage you to come in a little bit earlier. Check in on the Blog Talk side of it, 4:30 Pacific time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time on Mondays. All right, enough of that. So look that up if you want to get to that. Brian Tracy and the Power of a Written Plan. So I think we got through maybe about 5, maybe 6 of them, probably closer to 5 because I think he was just announcing 6 when we cut off. So in any case, you can get the other 6 by going there. So the point is, you need a plan you can believe in, and that was one of the critical statements in there as well. It said you can have a plan, but if you don't really believe in that plan, it's not really one of those kind of plans. And one of the ways that demonstrates that you believe in your plan is that you act on it. Is that you act? It's what you do. It's not what you say. It's not only what you intend. Intention is a big part of it, but it's actually what you actually do. And sometimes we don't do. Generally speaking, it's almost 100% of the time. I'll say 99.9% of the time is that we don't do because we really don't believe in it. Now, there are things that we can augment a plan with that will enhance our belief in it and then get us motivated. One of the things that he spoke of in the presentation that we shared was that there's a reversibility in psychology, meaning in our psyche, in the way that we work as a species, as a being. You have reversibility, and that is, if you believe in something, then you will habitually act in accordance with that belief. But if you are not believing in something and you quote unquote know you should, and you should, and you believe it's good, but for some reason you can't get yourself going on it, well, then what you do then, as he says, is act like you believe in it, right? If you act like you believe in it, the neuronomy, the physiology, your nervous system will act in accordance with or will respond in accordance with your actions, right? Some people actually put it this way, fake it until you make it. Fake it until you make it. So that idea is there in the doing, right? So the idea is, what are you doing? Because what you're doing is actually what you do believe in. But let's move on so we can get some details before time runs out on it. So when you have such a plan, it's essential because the scientific correctness of the plan and how much you believe in it. That's a big part of it. Like he spoke of a woman who came up to him. She's broke, just got fired for incompetence, etc. But she said, well, since you said we can have and do and achieve whatever we imagine or whatever we want, she said, I'm going to become a billionaire in a year. Right? So, well, that's not realistic, right? So the point is, for any plan, in order for us to have faith in whatever that plan is, we have to have a sense of the correctness of that plan, the scientific, quote unquote, certainty of the plan, and feeling the factual character of the plan, right? Sensing the factual character of the plan, the correctness of the plan. And that is going to impact how much we believe in it. And then, of course, the behavior as the follow-up, the regulation, meaning the control and the discipline behavior, the regulation and the regularity of our behavior in concert with the plan. You can have a good plan, but now you have to act on the plan according to the way that the plan is laid out. The recipe model is what all you have to use. The recipe model is, okay, listen, just go get, one of the ways you can do it, whatever, you can go get a recipe of something that you have never, ever done before. So you've never baked this, cooked this, or whatever. Okay, go get the recipe. And then just walk through the process and think about and be conscious of every factor that moves you to that point where you actually have that dish or whatever that is that you are making per the recipe in front of you. And that is all you have to do for whatever it is that you're talking about creating that doesn't exist for you right now. What is the recipe? The plan is the recipe, right? And so most of the recipes that are published and most of the recipes that are online, as a general rule, they're pretty accurate, right? So all you got to do is subscribe to that particular recipe and then do what the recipe says, and then you got what the recipe promised. Okay, well, then your plan is your recipe. Your plan is your recipe for whatever it is that you talk, whatever it doesn't matter. If it exists, if it is real, quote unquote, as a potential, as a possibility, etc., with all the other considerations that I mentioned coming up to this point, then it can be done. But you just have to have faith in the correctness of what it is that you're basing your behavior on, and then staying regular and being disciplined in sticking to the plan or the recipe as given. That's what it takes. If you change something in the recipe, you're not going to get what the recipe promises because you're not even using the recipe. Once you change an ingredient in the recipe, then you change the whole plan. Okay, moving on from that. These are the reasons why you need a plan that you can believe in. It's not just about having a plan. You have to believe in the plan that you have. All right. So we're going to walk through these verses of the Quran. We're not going to do the Arabic piece of it. We're just going to work with it to the abstracted principle that can be drawn from the expression of it. 53rd chapter, 37 to 42. 53, 37 to 42. Now, and this is speaking about the nature and the power of Yaqin. This thing that we're talking about, a plan you can believe in, really the Arabic term for it is Yaqin. Yaqin, conviction. You have to have conviction, right? All you got to do, you think about and you hear about, you read about these great stories of great people overcoming great adversity and achieving great things. What you will find is one of the common denominators of their success is that they had conviction about whatever it is that they were convinced and they were convicted with regard to that particular object, goal that they had in their hearts and their minds and their souls. And now we applaud them and we see them. But to get their whole story, you have to understand that they had to act on conviction. They had to act with deeply ingrained beliefs. It's not just believing. It's got to be deeply ingrained belief in Quran, that is yaqeen. So on the neurobiological level, this conviction or yaqeen, these deeply ingrained beliefs, activate the mechanisms of our inner resources relative to the goal. Just like with Brian Tracy, when he talked about reversibility. So it's like if you don't have the magnitude of faith that you would like to have and conviction that you'd like to have, act like it, right? Why? Because when you act like it, your internal resources don't know that that's not what's really happening. Just like when we talk about the stress that people experience, because the body reacts in this fight or flight mode today in the same way it did 6,000 years ago as a human being to an external threat, a threat that could cost us our lives as human beings. And so that's the same neurology, the same physiology, the same brain activity, the same areas of the brain are reacting to what's a threat. But what is the threat in the case that we're trying to exemplify? It may be that you have to give a speech. You have to give a speech. Here comes all the stress. And the stress is as though you are being attacked by something, or you're going to be hurt by something, or your life is threatened in some way, right? So the neurology and the physiology is responding the same way, even though the magnitude or the reality of the threat is not physically the same as the saber-toothed tiger or the woolly mammoth or what have you. No, but the point is that same neurology is the same neurology that we have. And so the idea is to recognize in this reversibility, it's like once you have the deeply held, the deeply ingrained beliefs, then all those mechanisms inside of your being that are supportive of that goal and whatever it is that you have to do in order to achieve that. It's just like go back to the 6,000 years ago. Now you're not the prey, you're the hunter. You're the one, and you have the tools, you have the skill set, you have the ability. You're surrounded by your tribesmen, etc. And everybody is going toward the goal of getting that animal because it's going to feed us for the whole winter, right? So all of your inner resources are going towards that goal because you are positive about the possibility of your attaining what it is that you're aiming at. So when we have this conviction, this yaqeen, we consciously and unconsciously, that is the sympathetic, the parasympathetic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, the entire faculty of your own being, they behave in a way that's aligned with the plans that our goals are based upon. Until we realize it, we are committed to it. That is, we keep going until we get there. And Quran tells us that. That's our attitude. That's the attitude we have. So let's look at, just walk through these verses, and then we're going to put an action, a mindset, a disposition, a way of being to each one of these verses, inshallah. 53:37, it says, and of Abraham who fulfilled his engagements, namely that no bearer of burdens can bear the burden of another, that man can have nothing but what he strives for, that the fruit of his striving will soon come in sight. Then will he be rewarded with a reward complete, that to your Lord is the final goal. Now let's go through each one of these. So each one of these, this bullet list here, they tell you what to do. Of Abraham who fulfilled all his engagements, what are we to do? We're to be a person of faith, science, and integrity. Why do we say science? We say science because the picture of Abraham in the 6th chapter, 75th through the 79th verse of the Quran, that's when he had the experience of the star, moon, sun, and then coming to Tawheed, right? And understood, that means that his knowledge, his level of knowledge was scientific. His level of knowledge elevated to the heights of knowledge. And this is what Allah promised him. And Allah stated to us that that was his purpose. He showed, that is Allah, he showed Abraham the powers and the laws of the heavens and the earth, that he might have this yaqeen, that he might have this conviction. But Abraham starts into the process relative to our goal achievement, and yes, the goal achievement aspects we're speaking to today. He brings that to the process. That's what you and I have to bring to the process. You have to be a person of faith. You have to be a person of science, and don't think science is MIT or NJIT or Princeton or what have you. You can't be a scientist unless you are, in Silicon Valley or something like that. No, no, you just have to. Imam Muhammad, he said that his may Allah have mercy on him. He said, true science is the correct interpretation of the material creation. True science is the correct interpretation of the material creation. The point is that you should have some knowledge of the nature of what it is that you're involved in. Did you hear that? Allah taught Adam the knowledge of the nature of all things. That part of that knowledge that relates to what you're planning, what you're trying to achieve, you need to know that about that thing, right? You need whatever, your goals. These are your goals, your plans, right? Do you understand the nature of what it is that you're engaged with? Do you understand the nature of it? And yes, I mean, it wouldn't be, and I wouldn't call it overthinking if you understand the kind of discipline you have to do in the thinking. But khalaqa sawa qadra hada. Imam Muhammad, again, he tells us, if you know these four things about anything, then you know everything about that thing. So do you know the form of whatever it is that you're talking? I don't. You said, just think about it. Take a little, put your pencil out right now and think about, okay, I'm trying to do X. Okay, do you know the khalaqa of X? Do you know the form of X? What is its form? What is it actually? Right? So, do you know the place of X in this total system? And yes, also inside the system that is. Are you talking about a political goal? Are you talking about an economic goal? Stay with the four birds. Are you talking about a cultural goal? Are you talking about an academic goal? Okay. Khalaqa sawa. Okay, where's the goal, the plan, the destiny that you're setting out for yourself? Where does it fit in that field? Where is it in that field? Do you know its place in the field? Okay. So do you know the form of the thing? Do you know the place of that thing in the field that it is associated with, a part of? Khalaqa sawa qaddara. Do you know how people who succeed in that field, in that area, how do they do it? How do they go from simple to complex? How do they go from low to high in that field? Do you know that? Do you know that? Khalaqa sawa qaddara. Qaddara, that's the question that we just asked. Fahada. And the guidance. Do you know its place in the guidance of God? Because listen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're all here to work for his bigger plan. Okay? That's what we're all here to work for, his bigger plan. Right? And he has given us potential and talents. Okay, to each is a goal to which he is turning, so strive in the race towards all that is good. Wheresoever you start forth, turn towards the sacred mosque. The sacred mosque is a symbol of the destiny for humanity inscribed, prescribed for us by Allah. I put you on the earth to do something in line with my plan. My plan is symbolized and objectively represented in the sacred mosque. Right? So whether you're doing business, whether you're doing politics or governance, whether you're doing business or governance or culture or whichever one I'm missing, how and where does that relate to the destiny of God in the greater scheme of humanity? Ummah, Khalifa, all that. You need to know that, because that's where the hada comes in. Okay? You will know, when you know how, that thing of whose form you're aware and knowledgeable of, and that thing whose place within the system you're aware and knowledgeable of, and that thing that grows from simple to complex in a way that you are knowledgeable of. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide you in that effort dedicated to Allah, but you will also know how this serves the guidance of God. How this serves the guidance of God. Meaning, Allah guides you to it, and now it as a source of guidance for what? How does it serve the plan of Allah? That's the bigger thing. This fahada, it's placed within the guidance of God. It's placed within the God. Okay, this thing that you're working on, how does it fit into the God's plan for guidance for humanity? How does it serve man, providing that thing? How does it help him get to the destiny? How does it help you get to the destiny? How does it help you serve the destiny? Because that's what Allah supports. Allah supports that which supports his will and plan for humanity. And how many needs do we have as human beings? We have universal needs. So that means it's not a question of, well, I don't know if God really wants that. Well, maybe you should ask yourself that question from the beginning, because if it doesn't serve the plan of God, you probably shouldn't be doing it. But there's very few good things that we can do. Fastabiqul khairat. There are very few good things and discovered talents that we find within ourselves that don't serve the will and the plan of Allah. All right, so just understand that. So the point is that I went through all that is that to understand. Okay, you got faith, you believe in Allah. I spent that time there to get us to really understand what does it mean to understand the science in our language, right? And it's when you understand the khalaqa qadra of whatever it is that you're working on, then you got the science of it. All right. Now, next thing is also be a person of integrity. Be a person of integrity. Go back to the Kaaba again as an example, as an illustration. The Kaaba is a sign. It's a symbol. What is the Kaaba? Kaaba is a six-sided figure. It's a six-sided figure. And it also translates into cube. Translates into cube. Cube. Think about a sugar cube, right? You look at a sugar cube, six-sided figure, all equal. Six-sided figure, all equal. If I have you looking at a sugar cube and I tell you to turn around, and then I change sides on the sugar cube, but you don't know. When you turn back around, I ask you, did I change this? Did I change sides on this sugar cube? You wouldn't be able to tell me. Why? Because they all look the same. All sides look the same. What is that? That's integrity. That's integrity. That means that you are well-balanced, well-formed. Your character is dependable. It's stable. That's another thing. The cube is the most stable form in physics. The most stable form in physics is cube. So it is with integrity. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, he's the prime model for us. He's al-Amin, and he was a businessman, etc. So this integrity is part and parcel. Indeed, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that integrity was imbued into the root nature of man. Then it was revealed in the Quran, and you learned it from my practice. And the rest of that long hadith goes on to talk about the person who was explaining it. He's saying, I used to do business with anybody, because if he was a Christian, then they would be held under an authority that could make them fulfill their obligation. But if he was a Muslim, I could trust his iman. I could trust his faith to do that. He said, but today I only do business in the hadith. I only do business with so-and-so and such and such. So that is to say that integrity gets lost. And when that integrity is lost, then of course business is lost. But the point is that the Prophet is the model, al-Amin, the model for trust. So this is the first verse, 53:37. Is telling us to be that kind of person. All the things that I just talked about, be a person of faith, be a person of science, be a person of integrity, then you're being like Abraham, who fulfilled all of his obligations. You know, the Quran, Surah Al-Mu'mineen, I believe it is. So it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu afu bil uqud. Could be Surah 5. Inshallah. I know the Quran says it that, oh, you who believe, fulfill all of your obligations, fulfill all of your contracts. Okay, and that's just our way of being. Let's move on to the next verse, 53:38, because these are things that everything I'm speaking to If you be what these verses are telling you, you will achieve what it is that you're aiming at, right? So, next verse, namely, that no bearer of burden can bear the burdens of another, except personal responsibility. There's so much in the Quran that speaks to that personal responsibility. No bearer of burdens can bear the burden of another. That's it. Your responsibility is your responsibility. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, every one of you is a leader with matters in your charge. And that's what we're going to be questioned on, matters in your charge. And the first area of responsibility is self-responsibility. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum. Protect and guard yourself. And also, Quran says, alaykum anfusakum. On you is the obligation of your own soul. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says of the Prophet, rouse the believers, but you are only responsible for yourself. This is what Allah says to the Prophet, peace be upon him. So accepting personal responsibility is critical. We hear the language, responsibility is the key. Responsibility is the key. Just think about a key. Every key, look at any key that you have. That key represents responsibility. Whatever the key goes to and is your key, then that's your response. That key represents your responsibility. You got a car key, you're responsible for the car. You got a house key, you're responsible for the house. You have a vault key, then you're responsible for what's going on in the vault. Responsibility is the key. All right? And the greater we accept and uphold and fulfill our responsibility, the greater our success. That's it. So not only do you have to be a person of faith and science and integrity, you have to be a person who accepts personal responsibility. You see, all these things are above and beyond the written plan, right? Because if you have the written plan, but then you don't have these qualities, you don't have these character traits, then what good is the plan? Because you're the one that has to drive the plan, right? But if you don't have those qualities and those attributes, then the plan, no matter how good it is, it's not going to deliver, because the role that you are supposed to play goes unfulfilled if you're not a person of faith and science and integrity, or a person who accepts personal responsibility. Also, 53:39, that man can have nothing but what he strives for. So what does that mean? You have to have a goal. You have to have a plan. That's what God is telling us. Man can have but what he strives. When you're striving for something, that means you have an aim. You have a direction. You have a goal. You have an intention. Man can have but what he strives for. You have to set your goal and plan. And remember, we're speaking to the fact that you need to have a plan that you believe in, right? And so this is where the faith, the science, and the integrity, all those things come to play there with regard to how potent your plan is and will actually be. And you have to visualize in order to virtualize your goal. When Allah is saying here, man can have but what he strives for, right? With concrete things, right? You're in a room right now, whatever. They say, okay, you have to get out the door, right? You have to get out the door. Okay, so you have to move in the direction of the door in order to get out of the door, right? So when you are going there physically, it's easy to see the door because the door is actually there. All right. And so you're not going to get out of the room unless you go toward the door. Right. All right. Well, look at this. Man can have but what he strives for. So when God is saying that, then does what he strive for actually exist or not? Does it exist or doesn't it? He said he can have but what he strives for. See, because as soon as you frame in your mind, as soon as you frame the intention to, I'm going to graduate college, I'm going to get a PhD, or I'm going to get this certification, etc. Man can have but what he strives for. Okay, Since you said that that's what you want to do and that's what you hope to achieve, etc., does it exist? That's the question. Does it exist? Yes, it exists. The thing you're striving for, it already exists. It exists and it came into existence and comes into existence as soon as you say, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do. This is what I hope to achieve or what I plan to achieve, right? As soon as you said that, it comes into existence in the field. In the field. Now that's where the the new thinking for some has to come in. But the point is, the reality is that as soon as you uh, visualize, that is, have the sense of, you form the intention for something, there's the reality of this universal field that we're in. It actually comes into virtual existence there, and this is not just new to the Quran. The Bible has, I believe it's Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. So it's like, do you see it? No, you don't see it. But what about that? Well, Muslims believe in the unseen. Muslims believe in the unseen. We don't believe that just because you don't see something, it doesn't exist. That does not only apply to God and angels, etc. That applies to things that you aspire to, things that you hope to achieve, plans that you have. Remember that the plan is the tangible beginning of the hoped for destiny. You have it in your mind, you put it down on paper. Now it's starting to take on three-dimensional form just from idea to the page. That's the tangible. Just put it like this. Imagine it like this. I'm saying imagine because I want you to get a simple picture of it. Uh, if somebody's going to make a certain garment, right? You have people who make garments, right? They make those garments. What do? They draw it. They draw a picture of the garment. They draw a picture. Where was it before that picture was on the page? It was in their head. All right. And so they held the vision in their head and then they put it down on paper and then start doing the tangible things to bring that thing into reality. It's the same. It's the same with anything. What is your vision? How can you put it on paper? If we're not just talking about a drawing of something, we're talking about a planned business or whatever. It's like it's there. It's just as quote unquote real in its journey from that page to whatever it is. If it's a bricks and mortar operation or what have you, fine. There's no difference in that in principle than a designer of garments, clothes, etc., doing the same thing with their ideas, drawing them on a page, drawing them on a piece of paper, and then we see that on the red carpet sometime in the future. Okay, I was saying that with you. Well, what are you writing down? Are you writing down a business plan? Are you writing down an object that you want to achieve and acquire, etc.? It just doesn't matter, because as soon as you visualize it, you virtualize it. As soon as you visualize it, you virtualize it. It's actually coming and has come into virtual existence as soon as you have that intention, as soon as you visualize it, you hold on to it, and man can have but what he strives for. So as long as you're striving for it, it's existing. In fact, you're striving for it, it's coming to you. You coming to it, it's coming to you. You coming to it, it's coming to you. And sooner or later, you're going to meet if you hold the regularity, if you hold the discipline, if your plan is grounded in the practical, scientific realities of what it is you're trying to produce. That production comes from, well, here it is again, transduction, right? Transduction, going from a virtual idea to an actual thing. That's transduction. And we spent a lot of time in the past couple of days doing that. So I'm not going to go back over that territory. Find some of our presentations from Saturday and Sunday, and you can get, well, unless you're in ACU, you didn't get that Sunday piece, but Saturday, you can get some from there. All right, so where we at now? Okay, let's see if we can hit this real quick. So it's been in front of you for a minute, so inshallah, maybe you're taking a minute to kind of walk through it. See, I said that as soon as you form the intention, as soon as you form the intention, it forms in the field. Brother and sister, listen, the quantum field is real. It's real. It's not hokey pokey or hokum or what. It's real. It is more sound. Well, I won't say it's more sound, so as not to get in that argument. But Einstein's theory of relativity and the like, that that's quote unquote that's given. Let's accept it, right? Quantum reality. Listen, your phone, my phone, your computer, and so many other things that are operating right now. Quantum is really old news. Quantum is really old news. It is truly. It is, brothers and sisters. Please, it's at least 100 years old. Wallahi, 100 years old. Look at names like Niels Bohr and Heisenberg and different folks like that way back. Yeah, Einstein, of course, he was back there. So in the early 20s of the 1900s, that was when it first came out in that sense. And then 10 years ago, they got the scientific proof, the bona fide proof. People were believing in it and acting on it and doing scientific experiments and creating things with it and upon it without the final proof of the quote unquote boson, without the final proof of it. But then in 2012, and I mean, I still find it interesting that they decide to, we discovered it. When did you discover it? On the 4th of July. Yeah, okay. And I believe that too. But I ain't mad at you. Do what you do, right? The point is that it's old news. It's old news. And I gotta hit you with this because it's just so important. Listen, if you're not in touch with this, what's going on with artificial intelligence, what's going on with AI, what have you, man, the distance between those who know and can use that and don't know and can't use that, man, some of these dystopian movies that you hear where there's an old elite group that's living off the planet somewhere and everybody else is poor living in junkyards, that kind of thing, don't think that that's not a real potential in the world we live in right now. So I guess I got to, well, whatever. I'll just keep saying this because, listen, the technology gap is the difference between the technology that's available and the technology that's in use. That's the gap. The technology that's available and the technology that's in use. That means your personal use, and it could be a whole nation. A whole nation. If Nation X has 1950s technology, but we have futuristic 22nd century type technology available. Well, the technology gap is between the 1950s technology that this country is using and the 2200s technology that this country is using. That's for countries, but it's also for individuals. What do you and I, what is available? What's in the public? Like Open AI, it's in the public. The Open AI is out there just like the internet is out there. Open AI, it's open, it's free. Man, I know they got a plan. Yeah, okay. So the point is, you got to get ahead of the plan for yourself, okay? Right now. And so the whole chat GPT and all the rest of that. Okay, do you know about that? Do you know about that? Okay, so that's what's going on now. And when I say quantum field and have to damn near apologize for having said it, it's like, man, that stuff is 100 years old. And now stuff, and what I'm telling you about now, OpenAI, that's like 3 months old. Like 3-4 months old. and just take a walk through the internet, the YouTube, whatever, and see what's going on with AI, what's going on with Chat GPT, what's going on with that. And you see as people out there just making a whole brand new world for you and I to live in and be manipulated by and be deceived by, if you don't understand the technology and how it's being used and how it impacts you. So we have to get out of the technology gap, right? So, mashallah, we don't get to finish everything, but let's just I'll just make this point here, and then inshallah next week with verse 40. Verse 40 is yeah, it is critical, but we'll have to come back to it. So let's just finish this. There's a well-known adage in our culture which states, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. In quantum language, a plan and planning is a mechanism. See, everything I've just talked about, the Higgs field, it's a mechanism, right? When we think about mechanism, we usually think about something with these moving parts and like a bicycle or like an automobile or everything. That's a mechanism. No, no, no. The way that laws operate in creation, that's a mechanism. That's a mechanism that does certain things. A cell is a mechanism, right? All right. So just as the Higgs field, which its fundamental job is to give massless things mass, subatomic particles, etc. The very reason that we have bodies is because of the Higgs field. Every literal thing that you can feel, touch, weigh, etc. in your environment is because of the Higgs field. It's the Higgs field that makes that possible. That's critical. And plans, what they do, and planning, they function as a bridge between the universal potential, that is all of what's possible in the universe. The universe, Imam Mohammed, those who need to hear him say things, and I'll say it to you, that the Imam said, what is the universe if it's not potential and possibility? He said, that's all it is. All it is potential and possibilities. That's what it is. The science calls that the Higgs field. That's their label for it, but it already existed before it had a name. Okay? And so the universal potential and man. So there's you and I, and there's the universal potential in creation. Between us and the realization of it is a plan. It's a plan. As soon as you have a plan, you have started that mechanism to work in your interest. Okay? Plans are what transmit, and I'm going to say it again, that starts the transduction process. And a plan, when it comes into existence, it is calling for the resources for its actualization. It is actually, the plan is actually a requisition to the universe itself. A plan is a requisition, and that plan, see, you and I don't see it, and you and I, you don't follow it like you follow even like a cord or something in the house, the way the house is wired for electricity. It's like, no, you don't follow those forces, and you don't follow the force lines. I can use that language. You don't follow the force lines of a plan and how it impacts the Higgs field in the way that you follow the material, but it's a reality. Because as soon as you have a plan, the plan is calling for, I'll need this, I'll need that, I'll need this, I'll need that. The plan is calling for, and it communicates as information with the entire universal space. That's where our minds have to start getting to be able to leverage the force of our faith in that reality, which was created by Allah. You leverage your faith in that force, in those things that Allah has created, and you get them to serve you. Allah has made them to render service to us, but we have to have faith in God. We have to have faith in what He created. We have to have faith in ourselves, and we have to use our brains. Last line. It is the nature of plans, that is our will and our intention, to begin the requisitioning of the particulars for the potential of a particular, from the potential of a specific field, both metaphysically and physically. Let me put a knot at the end of this thread right here. What I'm telling you is that as soon as the plan comes into force, if you will, it does exert a force. And the force it exerts is it's calling from the relevant fields, I'll need this, 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 and this. And as long as all we have to do is just keep acting, because what happens is, we call it synchronicity or what have you. I'm starting to make notes of these things as they happen for me nowadays. It's like, okay, I was thinking about this, working on this, and then here this thing shows up, and it was exactly what I needed for a part that I was working on at that time. And I had to remind myself, okay, bro, you talk about it. This is what happened, right? And so the things show up. So the point is, so once you settle into believing that that's the case, then what you do, you eliminate the resistance to those things happening more and more and more in your life. Got to go. So let me go ahead and shut out, cut out, shut out. Maybe I want to say shut up. So come on, Haja. We're going to close out right now. Assalamu alaikum, Imam. I know, so I'm feeling some serious absenteeism today. Or maybe everybody's on Facebook. Nobody's talking. Everybody's sitting back listening, I guess. Alhamdulillah. Usually I have a bunch of people that I can say assalamu alaikum to and all that.
All the feedback and
sitting down eating popcorn and chewing on the food for thought, I guess, huh? Alhamdulillah.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, we gonna go. Go ahead. What you want to close out with?
No, I mean, we always give enough for people to take the information and do their own self-discovery and exploration of this experience. So, I don't have any more than like, do it. Let's get into it. It's exciting. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's beautiful, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given it to us. He's granted it to us. He's given us the Jannah, we give the paradise of this world as an inheritance, right? So now we just gotta go get it, man. It's like everybody else is getting it. Don't be mad. It's like, hey,
that's right.
Getting it, go get yours, because don't forget your share of the material world. That's it. But you just have to get more and more faithful and scientific about it. You got to. All right. Trust your Lord, trust the creation, trust your nature, and inshallah, we'll all be there together. Inshallah. All right, love. Have a wonderful
day.
All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.